Hello, everybody. It's Margaret Luria at the ADHDvideoclub.com. Welcome. So the next question is, what if you want to move from a 504 plan to an IEP? Often what happens is that the ADHD is identified by teachers or counselors illegally as the prevailing issue. And I say illegally because really, just because the child isn't paying attention in class doesn't mean that the ADHD is the prevailing issue. And this is something that many people get wrong, not just school personnel, but many people. So if your child has multiple diagnoses, for instance, they might have diabetes and ADHD. They might have oppositional defiant disorder and ADHD. They might have anxiety and ADHD. If they have two or more diagnoses that affect their school life or their relationships to a significant degree, this is the legal definition, they are eligible for an IEP, an individualized education plan. Excuse me. Now, there are going to be circumstances where the school personnel say, no, I don't advise it. And usually they say they don't advise it because it's going to create a stigma for your child. Well, they're IEP classes, which is another word for special ed. Or they'll say, well, they'll be put in special ed. Now, your child does not need to be put in all special ed classes. If you have an IEP, an individualized education plan, what that means is that your child needs to be offered additional help. Now, that additional help could be in one subject or it could be in two subjects. If it's in all subjects, they may be put into special ed, depending on the help that they need. If it's in one subject or two subjects, they won't be put into a bunch of special ed classes. They will get additional help. It could be a tutor. It could be a teacher that does special ed that will provide resources and extra help. So don't be afraid to ask for an IEP if your child who's on a 504 plan is struggling. If they're still struggling, either the school needs to do more, you need to take them for further examination, I guess you'd say. I would recommend a naturopath, or both. So your child has the legal right to support at school. Another reason that counselors will say they don't recommend an IEP or assistant principals is because the school psychologist or the district psychologist, depending on how your school or district is set up, is overwhelmed with requests. That's not your problem. You still get to be put in the line just like everybody else. So you can say, I understand and I would like my child to be put in line. Now, if your child has already gotten diagnoses and documentation, like testing has been done, you can say to the school psychologist, you need to say, we have testing, so that the school psychologist doesn't have to redo the testing. Now, if it's old, he or she may redo it, but if the testing is current, then they don't have to redo the testing, and that's what takes the time. But just because they have a backup of, a long line of people doesn't mean you can't be put in that line. It just means you're not going to get the results right away. You may not even get them to be put into effect that school year, depending on what month it is, sort of is it the end of the school year? But having it in place will be helpful to your child in the future. I hope this helps. Thanks.